Milos, what do you think Gustavo Badell will be most remembered for, like in the annals of bodybuilding history? I hope he is remembered. I know these current young crop don't really know much about the history of bodybuilding, and that's why I try to, bring it up. But what will Gustavo go down as being remembered for?
I mean, for sure, first thing is the guy that beat Ronnie Coleman at his reign.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle news update. Today, I have a good friend of mine here, Milos Sarcev, who's going to be talking to us a little bit about the life and times of Gustavo Badell, may he rest in peace, who just passed and left us just a day ago. And Milos, I know you were very close to Gustavo, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I was close back in early 2000s, definitely. And then, I didn't really talk to him for many years, so I was not aware of his health issues. And first, condolences to his family and loved ones.
Yeah.
I'm devastated with the news. It was a shocker. How in our industry, I mean, a few times you were checking on me. You send me a message. I mean, people are saying you are dead. Are you alive? So they would have to confirm it. You know what I mean? So I was
a few times over the years, right?
Yeah, I was really hoping that this is one of those, but unfortunately, it's not. I had a couple of Gustavo's friends that basically, they're supposedly close, telling me that they didn't know nothing about it. But let's review this. I want to tell you, I met Gustavo at his very first pro show at the Pro Debut, 1998 in Germany. I remember that was the first time I met. I'm very communicative and social. I've seen the kid; it looked very good. Prospect. I mean, there was a tough lineup. 1998, after Olympia, which shockingly Ronnie won. There was only 2 European shows, Germany and Finland.
Right.
And I see that you and Chris Sacido talk about how Gustavo would maybe take a train rather than planes. I guess at that time he didn't even have money to go to Finland, so he did only Germany, right?
Milos, let me ask you a question. How did Gustavo turn pro?
That's a puzzle to me, because at the World Championship he placed 10th. And I'm 99% sure there was a Venezuelan passport and Venezuelan IBB contacting IBB office. And basically, at those times, me included, I got my pro card on basis of a national championship and my federation recommending me. And then IBB makes the evaluation. Okay, this guy is good enough or not good enough. This is how it is. Because really, when you look at
that's how Lee Priest got his pro card.
Many. I mean, seriously, well, when you think about it, if you are representing the country and the country is behind you, then it's up to IBB to accept it or not. Dorian Yates didn't win world championship, won English championship, right? Sonny Schmidt, Australian. I mean, this kind of stuff. But yeah, he didn't win any major show before. He went straight into the pros, maybe a little bit too early, right? Because he competed from 98. In 99, I did every show 99 that was organized. So he did it like 3. He did 9.
How many shows was that, Milos, at the time?
I think that year was only like 8 or 9.
Oh, that was an easy year for you, Milos.
It was easy, yeah. It was easy, but I did every show. And, he competed, 99 Night of Champions. And then in Europe, that was a British Grand Prix, if you remember, 99, the craziest, and World Championship before. He didn't leave a mark whatsoever. And then 2000, 2001, he also competed, didn't make a mark until 2002, when 3 shows he did bad, but then he placed top 3 in Toronto show. And if you remember back in those times, if you're in top 3 in any show, you automatically qualified.
In Olympia, you're right.
Yeah, and that's also
first. When did you first notice him and say, "Hey, this guy's got potential"?
Yeah, I said like 98 already in Germany. I told him, like, look, beautiful structure. You see, nothing is missing, but he needed more mass. He was a little bit raw. He couldn't really pose. This he became fantastic poser. But
Yeah.
I tell you this: 99, I was in Puerto Rico with Charles Poliquin and Dr. Eric Serrano. We did some training camp, and he attended. And that's also when I'm sure you do that the same thing. You always try to get engaged in conversation, maybe give some advice. I mean, I've been like this all my life, give advice. Not until 2003, he competed in Night of the Champions and Hungary show, which was my retirement. I announced retirement in America on Night of the Champions stage, but then a week later, I also did for Europe. I announced this is my last show. This is when Gustavo finally came to me. Hey, Milos, you're retiring? I say, yeah, I want you to coach me. I said, Gustavo, I offered you this, back in 99 in Puerto Rico. But, that mindset, like everybody, like, I don't know, if I compete against him.
Yeah.
Same like Nasser, right? He didn't believe that I would help him. I would give him exactly the opposite information. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think from Nasser, I can believe that completely, but
yeah.
And Nasser was had a very negative attitude about everyone.
Yeah, we can talk about this, but let's do this for
let's keep it on Gustavo. Chris Aceto said to me also when he saw him at the Grand Prix that he said this guy had such raw talent, but he just wasn't in shape. He said, but he could tell also. He said he was unbelievable looking, potential wise.
When you look at it, everything was there, right? Yeah. And then he's Latinos can move, but believe me, he couldn't really. It's not like he couldn't pose. See, this is what we were even talking about this podcast. Posing is not the movement. Posing is be a pose. So you have to become that frontal biceps and left spread and all this stuff. Of course, moving from one to another is beautiful, but it's not about movement, because movement, you don't judge physique. Sometimes you can't see the physique.
Right.
Anyway, those crazy arms, for example, the way he had them before, and he would do them like this, and you can't see nothing. So open up, and all of a sudden just open up, and it made all the difference. But anyway, he did qualify.
For some reason, I remember this, but I want you to just to confirm what I'm thinking about. When he was on stage doing the mandatories, especially when he was at his best, didn't he used to yell and scream?
Yeah,
he did, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I mean, listen, but think about this, and I want you to now, as I'm going there. 2002, he finally qualified for Olympia, but then he went to the Olympia, and this is the only Olympia, I believe, that was judged every placing all the way to the 25th. Check it out. They did. How usually they have a top 15 and everybody's 16th?
Right.
That year they judged everything, and he was like 24th out of 25. I think it's only the Youngblood, the older guy, he plays behind him. Needless to say, 2003, he shows up in Night of the Champions and in Hungary and didn't look good. So I finally told him, look, man, of course you have that physique. I'll work with you. But then he didn't contact me all the way up until November. So this show was maybe May, June. So he wanted to take a time off and everything. And at Nationals in Miami, 2003, I had a seminar with Jay Cutler, Dexter, Sean, and all this stuff. Yeah. He showed up at that seminar, to hire me. And you know how Sean, I had an argument with Sean yesterday. We were like 1 hour arguing, but Sean always wants to say something.
He's still around, Sean? I haven't seen him at all.
I mean, I want to keep this the focus on Gustavo. Right. So he as Gustavo came in, he kind of had this satchel, right? And the stomach was really big at the time, and it was like on the stomach, like right here, and that's how he came in. And that's right away what Sean noticed. And as soon as he came out, he goes, Milos, what are you going to do with this? I mean, look at that stomach. I said, just watch. You know his physique? And he said, no, he didn't remember the kid. I said, I remember the kid. You'll remember the kid. That's exactly how the words were. So what's that, November? And then Ironman is February because Arnold Classic is first weekend in March. The changes that Gustavo made was tremendous. I mean, unbelievable. He placed third behind Dexter won. Lee Priest was second, if you remember, 2004 Ironman. And, Gustavo was third. But most interestingly, Ronnie Coleman saw him a couple of days before the show. And he goes, Milo, he can win. And that's, imagine this is a guy that plays almost dead last at Olympia, nowhere in 2003. And now Ronnie Coleman 2 days before said he looks like he can win. And he really gave them hell. I mean, you know how when you don't expect that somebody can go that far? So third place was beautiful. But, I mean, he established himself. And I don't know if you remember, Craig Titus was there and, many other guys. He put the show. I mean, posing perfectly, conditioned perfectly, enough combination of everything, size, thickness, fullness, grace, beautiful. So as every of my guy, I wouldn't let him rest. He had to do San Francisco and Arnold Classic and GNC and everything that year, right? I said, listen, you are a finished product right now. I don't want an off season. We don't need off season. I don't want to blow up the stomach again, right? So keep him tight. And he placed third at the GNC. If you remember, that was Victor Martinez and I think Darren Charles was second. And it's deep lineup. But then he went to the Olympia. And he was not top 10 target whatsoever. Bob Ciccarello said in that Olympia TV the other day, like, oh, that year Gustavo worked all the way from the 8th place. No. There was 12 guys that was being called out before. Remember that they had a 3x3 and 3x3. So finally, 12 guys were already called out, and finally he got the call out. But I told him, look, Gustavo, you're not favorite. You're not going to get the first, second, third call out probably. Stay tight. Don't, how the mentally they drop like.
Oh, give up. Don't give up mentally, right?
Don't give up. Stay tight. And he was. I want to find those pictures. He was super tight at the in the lineup. And this is the mistake that everybody does. They call a call out, and everybody else just drop the shoulders, stomach, relax legs, and look like shit. Steve Weinberger and other judges with the corner of the eye are scanning everybody, and they're looking who's going to be the next call out. Anyway, finally, Gustavo made a call, and he was so good. And thank God, back in those times, they had a comparison after comparison. He moved in the top 10, top 8, top 6, and end up third. Now, very well, he was not favored by any sponsorship, nationality, or anything. He earned that third place. So that was his evolution. And I mean, I was just delighted. But if you do remember 94, it started with this press conference when Jay and Ronnie and Gunter, came and posed, right? Remember that moment? Yeah, for some reason, your audio is bad. But I told Gustavo, get on that stage. I mean, I push him, right? And I'm glad I did. I said, be seen. If they're posing, why not you? I mean, what? You guys should just applaud him? No, you're showing, I'll show it too. Anyway, so that was it. And again, with my mindset, no rest. Ironman next year, Iron Classic next year. So we went for all that stuff. San Francisco, there was a few more shows. I think you mentioned you watched
in 05, and he was third again at the Olympia in 05.
Yeah, but he won Ironman.
Yeah,
and you watched it, right?
Yeah,
and
I was there.
As we all know, Ironman lights, those legendary lights, and there was going to be Lee Priest and Troy Avs and a bunch of
Lee said that he should have won. Lee said I should have won. He should have won, but
Lee thinks that he should win Olympia,
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, he probably should.
so good to think that way. But yeah, how can you say Lee shouldn't have won? Or they chose Gustavo. But remember, these lights prefer that little fuller look. Fuller look. You can create illusion of
hardness.
The hardness with these lights. And why can't we have those lights in the Olympics?
I know. I don't know why either. It was perfect. The lighting was so good at that. People don't know, but for people who are like younger, the Ironman was the first show of the year all the time, and it would be held toward the end. It was being held in Pasadena, and they used to light that stage. They had a black background, and they would light it so perfectly that the bodybuilders would just want to do the show just to get pictures from the show. Because I mean, probably some of Flex Wheeler's best pictures was from doing that show. Cormier too.
And I tell you, 100% of this, you're not even peeled out of your mind and ripped. Under these lights, you look peeled out of your mind and ripped. So yeah, I know when I was going 99 against Jay and Gunter and Chris, I wanted that full look, and actually I looked like, I wasn't peeled at all, but that's the appearance. So I want to tell you, Gustavo was like so pumped up for the Arnold Classic because that was like.
So what did you do? What did you change with Gustavo's training plan that turned him into a champion from basically being a third call out guy?
Yeah, it was a diet. It was not really. I hardly. I went there and I trained with him, and he came to my gym and trained. I just sent you today those 5-plate squats we were doing, So I'm still finding out hundreds of photos. God knows, I probably have 1,000. So he's a hard worker, and I think you mentioned in your interview how whoever says, "Oh, I work hard." He does. I mean, literally speaking, he goes into the gym to break his personal best. Good form, compound heavy duty moves, and then isolation moves was squeeze the life out of the muscle. I mean, I really love it. And then remember those crazy arms, Jesus Christ. So I changed the diet, and what I do with my guys, as you probably already know, I give them every 3 hours. It has to be timed meal, and then I give them the nutrients. I ensure protein, enough protein, so amino acids going to be constantly floating around, and whatever needed they're available, but energy dependent. Carbs if you're training, and fat if you're not training.
Drive him a lot to get him to get in shape. I mean, did you have to go low carb with him?
Yeah, pretty low. And I'm going to tell you this because we started like that November that I told you. As Sean says, like, oh, he's so fat and all this stuff. He changed, and this is a blessing. When you get regimented, he was changing perfectly, sending me the pictures. It's like, wow, that looks good. So I didn't, with all the guys, you know how you do initially, and then you drop and drop and drop accordingly. But, okay, I didn't have to drop. Actually, I'm going to tell you what is interesting here. So I would go 150 grams of carbs on low carb days, normally. And then I didn't do lower on the depletion days. 150, 3 days, training hard would deplete him. This is how it was. And then Thursday, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday morning, I would still deplete him. Actually, this is when he has just 50 carbs for breakfast, then goes to the gym, kills that last muscle. So Thursday afternoon and Friday, we would load up because he didn't need much time and we didn't need much carbs. He was that guy. If you remember, everybody has a different attribute. So he had that chest. The chest was like kind of flattish, but when he just pumped up enough, he looked good. His shoulders, arms were crazy. So chest were never looking crazy, but he pulls it off to have a very good side chest, very good, this pose. When you look at it, it's not so much beef on the chest. It's beef on the arm.
He's conditioned, though. He's very conditioned.
Yeah. But so after he won Ironman 95, he was going to
05.
Yeah. 05. Ironman 05. You go into the Iron Classic 05, and there was Dexter and there was Chris Cormier, and we thought, of course we can still win it, and he would win. At that time, it was like 100 grand, Hammer, watch, all kinds of stuff, right? So he went there early, and to acclimate and all that stuff. And I do remember when I came Wednesday afternoon, right? He's supposed to deplete with 150, and but this is how it was. When they want it so hard, I want it hard. I'm gonna be the hardest worker in the room. I want even more. I'm gonna go even less carbs. So he didn't tell me. He went on. He went on 0 carbs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And Wednesday, when I saw him in the afternoon, like, oh Jesus! I mean, it's one thing depleted, and the other thing is that beat up catabolic. Like, oh, hold on a second, shit. But it's still like, well, we still need to do that Thursday workout. And I went with him. Okay, now I started carving him up, and he could just never fill up perfectly. There was now it was too late. And when he told me that he changed, I was like, oh, so let's do a little bit more carbs. But then it would be like one of those, whoop, and 3 hours later he comes down, whoop, comes down, all the way to the stage. So he was good, but he couldn't beat Dexter and Chris, which he beat at Olympia later on, right? But that was at one of he wanted so badly. So I trained like a maniac. He did say that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Columbus, Ohio was his hardest training of his life. Like, you're not supposed to train the hardest workout on depletion days, right? And then especially
not 3 days before the show.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But that's how it was. So 2005 at Olympia, I mean, again, he shined. But 2004, that challenge round, I do want to mention it because you and I just touched that subject. Because Bob Cicarilla and everybody else, even now that I posted, worst idea ever, and this is stupid, and all this. I mean, right now, if I would tell you, Dave, when you used to compete with whoever that was really close to you, and you're beating him in some pose, wouldn't you want to call the guy on the stage in front of everyone to hit that pose with you? Challenge. Right? I think it's a great idea. I loved it. They screwed up because they allowed the same pose to hit twice. And Jay Cutler was too smart. Gunter called.
Explain for our audience what the challenge round was when they had it at the Olympia. They wanted to create more excitement. Wayne D'Amelio had this idea where people challenge each other for pose, and you could pick who you want to pose against. And explain the rules because you were in it.
Okay, the rules was like this: we had the mandatory poses. Okay, and you're judging the pre-judging, hitting at the time symmetry round, relaxed front, side, back, and then mandatory poses. So Peter McGough, I guess, is the one who recommended to Wayne D'Amelio, like back in 80s in England, and they talk about there was that challenge that I can go to Dave Palumbo and say, okay, Dave, you and I, let's do I'm going to pick ab and thigh shot, right? Because I think I can beat you in that one. Yeah. And then you're going to do any brutal muscular poses against me. Okay. But I challenge you, you challenge me in front of the audience. I mean, that's crazy. Like right now, Nick Walker and whoever, Derek. Nick Walker is going to call him on what? He's not going to call him on back door biceps, even though that's his good pose, because Derek is phenomenal over there. He's going to call him on side chest, right? Or the most muscular. Which bodybuilding fan on this planet Earth would not like to see, okay, let's a guy's challenge? It's never going to happen. I know this.
The mistake was, Milos, they changed the judging panel. So what they wanted to do is get former Mr. Olympias to judge the challenge round. Yeah. They should have kept the regular judges in there, which would have kept it more consistent, don't you think?
Yeah, possibly. Absolutely. I agree with this. And then the judges complain because old Olympia don't have a judging.
They don't have judging experience, right?
Yeah, all this stuff. But look, and you can imagine, there was $25,000 extra for that challenge round.
Yeah.
So I said, Gustavo, one by one, what are we going to do? Dexter, triceps, Ronnie, ab shot. JJ is good everywhere, but okay, back biceps was not his best shot. Back biceps. We call against the Marcus Rule monster. You're not going to do the most muscular with the. He had a crazy biceps, but not good triceps. Like Gustavo, you have great triceps. Do the triceps with the Marcus. So we picked the poses. Everything was perfect, working perfectly. I mean. And then people got pissed off. Oh, I think it was wonderful. We don't have a time right now, but please tell me, right now, going into the Olympia, even maybe before the Olympia, do you guys want to challenge each other? I bet you they would.
Well, forget the athletes. The fans want to see that, Milos. That's who wants to see. I want to see that, don't you? You want to see that?
Of course. If there was Arnold and Mike Manzer, okay, right. It was. Who at any point in any major show, well, okay, judges are judging that. And so I will not allow the same pose to be hit twice because Jay got it from Gunter. And now they ask him against the Gunter. He did the same pose because he just beat him 2 minutes ago. Like, man, Jay, you spoiled it. But not just that.
Jay was smart, that's all. But somehow, how did Gustavo win the challenge round? Explain to us how he actually managed to beat everyone.
I mean, because if he handpicked the poses. I mean, look, I could beat Ronnie Coleman in ab and thigh pose, right?
Absolutely.
That's okay. I have that.
And Ronnie was a terrible side tricep. He had a terrible tricep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could. So every guy has some weakness. And if you analyze it correctly, and we nailed it. I mean, there was a strategy before. We knew exactly what we were going to do, right? Those guys were ahead of him. I mean, ahead of him, but okay, let's go one by one. Correct me if I'm wrong right now. I think they didn't supposed to add this into the final score, but for some reason, I believe they did.
Oh, they did? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I thought it was a separate contest.
I think so too, but I think that because Gustavo passed Dexter and ended up third after the prejudging was
possible.
So it could be, yeah.
Well, it influences the judges because when you see this challenge round, and then you still have to go through, right? Did they do it before or after the final comparisons? Oh, they did. Okay.
After, yeah.
Well, maybe the judges change their mind when you start seeing someone like Gustavo come alive and beating all the top guys. I mean, you just naturally want to see him higher in the rankings at that point because the fans are going crazy,
Yeah, I mean, I understand we don't have a time and all that stuff. So,
but you know what, Milos, we really should have the time. If they don't have the time because they got to do bikini, then there's something wrong with the scheduling because it's a bodybuilding. We're going into Mr. Olympia. I don't want these guys to be rushed off stage because they have to go through 400 bikini competitors. It's just not. It's not fair to bodybuilding because the bodybuilding fans are there to watch the bodybuilders. They're not there to watch the bikini. Bikini's kind of like just an extra little, intermission show for most people, and they shouldn't shortchange the bodybuilders. If the challenge round is something interesting, and you know what, they did it right. It wasn't really counted towards your score, but you know what, you still were able to win 25 grand. So if you were, like you said, Milos, if you were smart and you were strategic and you were able to figure out how to beat some of the top guys that might beat you overall, you could walk away with a lot of money. And I think it was a brilliant idea, actually.
Yeah, me too. It's never going to happen. I mean, even every time we mentioned posing, and it was great because here, who was it? Chris Cormier remember your posing routine, right? Yeah. Okay. He remembered, and that's forever and ever. We all remember. I mean, I just pulled because we were with Dennis Newman. I pulled his posing routine, and I'm going to post on my Instagram today. And it was a memorable routine. We remember Labrada routines in Bob Paris. And
you remember the color of his suit? I remember the color of Dennis Newman's suit in that show. He had the green suit.
I remember facial expression for every pose. You know what I mean? This is exactly how it's supposed to be. Again, they say, oh, but it's not entertainment. It's not movement. I agree. But the movement and entertainment value, like if you have to be so skilled that in between poses, these transitions, you make it perfect. And then punchline with each and every pose, everybody's going to remember it. I'm sure that Samson's going to do something crazy for the Olympia, and I'm looking forward to it.
I wish I would have spent more. You know what? The guys on the West Coast, you guys, definitely put more into your posing. It was, you know, you guys would go in the posing room at Gold's Venice and you would work with each other every day. East Coast, no one did that stuff. And you know what? I definitely felt like I didn't put enough time into the posing, and it was because no one did it. Like if everyone would have said, "Hey, get in your posing room, we're doing posing now," I would have gone in there and done it, you know. But it's hard to motivate yourself when no one else is doing it. But everyone was doing it on the West Coast, and that's why you got guys like Melvin Anthony and Sean Ray and you and Flex, and I mean the routine, Cormier, the routines were way better coming out of the West Coast guys than the East Coast guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, first you master the mandatories, and as I can send you some more pictures. I'm finding out thousands. Every workout, there's no exception to the rule. After you finish, now you're pumped. You're in a gym. Here you come, in posing room or here under these lights, and we're gonna do like 15 minutes of posing. Okay. All the mandatories. And I always requested from the guys, now give me something creative. Connect those poses. You know how it is. If you have a sequence of poses, something up, something down on one side, the other side, and connect what is most logical. And then with Gustavo, now this is funny. He would have his music and say, okay, Gustavo, I don't want you to do with your music. Let me play different song and you have to pose. And this is what we were doing. So he has no idea what music. I can do the rock, I can do whatever, and he's going to have to pose some classical music. And he was game. I mean, he just had that in him, right? So some guys, you know, that Kevin Lembroni could pose with anything, anytime.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah. These are the kind of things. I mean, right now, even when I'm driving in every piece of music that you can connect with the Vince Taylor or with whoever else, instantly you're hitting the poses in your head. Yeah.
Milos, what do you think Gustavo Badell will be most remembered for, like in the annals of bodybuilding history? I hope he is remembered. I know these current young crop don't really know much about the history of bodybuilding, and that's why I try to bring it up. But what will Gustavo go down as being remembered for?
I mean, for sure, first thing is the guy that beat Ronnie Coleman at his reign, right? Even though it's a challenge round, and Ronnie Coleman is going to be pissed off forever and ever, and should have happened, shouldn't have happened. Hey, it happened. You know, so, for many people, okay, he beat Ronnie at his best. Even if it's just a challenge round, doesn't matter. And then look, I mean, Venezuelan guy that lives in Puerto Rico, at that era with the Ronnies and Jays and Dexters and Chris Cormiers and all this stuff, he made a top 3 at Olympia twice in a row. Right. So he established himself as a lead bodybuilder at the time. You worked with him at the Muscular Development, right? And
he made money. He had contracts, and I know he worked for Muscle Tech, I think, for a while, and he had Blackman at MD, so he was definitely making money. Do you think that? Well, let me ask you this question: if Gustavo was competing today, how would that physique that you brought him in at the Olympia in 2005, how would that have done against, last year's Olympia lineup here?
I mean, if he would be ripped to pieces, especially 2004, I think we went a little bit for more drier, crazier look, because just first time to get the attention. And 2005, he already got attention. They already know his physique, so we went for a little bit fuller look. I would sure think that he could have be squeaking to the top 10 and fight the guys between 6 and 10. He would be competitive.
Worse today than he did against Ronnie and Jay in 04, 05.
Sorry?
So you think Gustavo would do worse today than he did in 04, 05 against Ronnie and Jay?
Yeah, I have contradiction. Okay, I'm looking. Who do we have? Yeah, it would be very interesting to see.
I think he would be top 5.
I'm labeled as a biased coach. As soon as I would say this,
you wouldn't be. I mean, he was second behind Jay and Ronnie. I mean, third behind Jay and Ronnie. I mean, he would definitely be top 5. I mean, I don't know where he would fall in that top 5 because we don't see him standing next to these guys, but he had a lot of muscle on his body, you know?
Yeah, he has. I mean, I would love to see that happen. I would still. I was more thinking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, considering who was competing. Last top 6, right? From Paddy to Derek to
Right.
Brandon to Nick, Brandon, Rami.
It would have been 3rd or 4th in my mind.
Really?
I think he would have been as high as that. The way he looked back then, yeah, he was freaky. You know, I think you forget how good he was. He made other guys look bad on stage. I don't know why, because alone he didn't look as impressive as when he was next to people. Yeah, he was wide, he was thick, you know, and he really was. He had a charisma on stage about him too. That I think that your eyes kind of got drawn to his physique. You know.
Yeah, I was just I love the fact you said it, not me. And when I reconsidered, I hope you could have moved in placing. Just like when we were going that first 2004 Olympia, if somebody would ask me and say, like, oh, top 10 was for me realistic.
Right.
And I told him top 10 means 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th. You can land the top 10. Top 10 of the Olympia, you can just tweak and you can slip. Look at Hunter Labrada, slip from 4th to 7, right? I mean, anything can happen. Yeah, Gustavo at his best would be super competitive. Would they give him a chance for top 6? Yeah, now that I think probably they would.
What happened to Gustavo? Why did he drop off? You know, after 05, you know, he was 4th at the Arnold in 07, 8th at the Olympia, and then kind of his placings went down. What happened? I mean, were you still coaching him?
No, we stopped after the 2005 Olympia.
Okay,
we separate our ways. You know.
What happened? Did you guys get into an argument?
Yeah, I mean, it was a payment, you know, that was not made and stuff like that, and you know, there was like one of those uncomfortable situations. You know, Dave, I you know, maybe when I'm gone or something, and you contact most of my athletes, I did so many for free all my life, right?
I know you did. Absolutely.
To help out. I mean, when you think about it, when I started working with Gustavo, he didn't have money. So, okay, didn't have money, poor guy. Okay, let me help him. And then I keep helping him, and now he started winning the shows and all that stuff. And we were supposed to have some arrangement. It didn't happen. So, you know, after 2005, you know, so we sit down and say, so then he maybe felt uncomfortable.
Let's say he would have paid you. Do you think you could have gotten him up the rankings higher at that point? Or was his physique, or was he peaked out already at that point?
I think he could go, you know, because he was not injured. He was not overtrained. He is not one of those that has a crazy life. He was family-oriented man.
Right.
At the time, I remember his wife, Jessica. Daughter was Barbie. She was like really Barbie doll. Gustavito son. I mean, I think he got remarried and had more kids and everything. But he was very, very family-oriented man. Home, eat, do what he's supposed to. You know, I think he could continue improving. And I mean, for like 2006, oh yeah, that's Barbie. Look at her. Oh my God. Yeah.
She's probably full grown. She's probably full grown now, the daughter, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. She's probably 22, maybe.
Wow.
Like that.
We're old, Milos. We're old.
Yeah, no. But look at Gustavo's face. How can you not love the guy? I mean, and that's that projection, you know, the kid next door. You know, you gotta love him.
Yeah, he's going to be missed. You know, I'm hearing from people inside his camp, and I don't know if this is confirmed, that it was kidney failure related, the death.
Somebody said that he had a kidney transplant and that his sister gave him
I think his wife gave him the kidney or something like that, or someone in the family gave him a kidney. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That was it. I mean, they stopped talking, and it kind of bothers me, right? Even when I would run into some mutual friends, and here's Gustavo and all that stuff. Yeah, he didn't want to respond to any of it.
You know, he was Gustavo was very opinionated and, you know, very strong about his opinions too. Whether you agreed with him or not, you know, he was very strong opinion of things. And I think, you know, I think he was one of these guys that, maybe his career was cut short because of kidney issues. And a lot of people get a bad taste, because they didn't end on their own terms. I think Nasser had kind of like a similar distaste for bodybuilding because he kind of was pushed out, or he felt like he had to leave before he had finished his business, which I think in his mind was winning the Olympia. So, everyone responds differently. You and I kind of evolved and kind of changed our, what our goals were from competitive to helping other people. So we kind of were living vicarious through the people we're helping. A lot of people don't have the ability to do that, and they kind of just got sour about the whole situation. I don't know if that's the case with Gustavo, but I feel like he didn't leave on his own terms.
Yeah, but here's Dave, for you and me. I mean, you were just about to turn pro, but you didn't turn pro. And I turned pro and competed in the 90s with the guys that I know the best I could do is like top 10 and stuff like that, right? So we didn't have that winner's mentality and almost taste the victory, right?
I know.
So when you like Nasser, he was third twice and then second, and here Gustavo twice third. I mean, he could probably taste it.
Sure.
So yeah, that's probably a little different. He still won like 2009 one show, like I don't know, Atlantic State, something like that. But I just think that I had his body down really. I could. Some guys it's very, very predictable. And like I said, the only reason for that 2005 Arnold Classic, he did something without telling me, deplete even more. Like, if I need to deplete, let me have zero carbs. I do zero carbs with many guys, but if I do zero carbs, I give you more fat. But if you're no fat and no carbs, you're under caloric and you go deep. Like,
yeah.
Exactly. So, and I tell you this because some people are going to say, Mauro Sassi, Mauro Sassi is a friend of mine, Italian coach, because I would always share what I do with any guys. And, I never had any secrets. With Gustavo, like I said, we would deplete Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, Thursday after the training, we start loading. So it's only a day and a half, which is very moderate. And you would probably approve it, because you don't go crazy carbs. I go crazy carbs with somebody. The diuretic of his choice was only aldactazide. And aldactazide, and that was from Italy. He would get that. And I remember always, he would bring it to me and break like minty flavor. And you can taste it. And there would be half Thursday, and then half Friday morning, half Friday night. Nothing almost. I mean, it's super. So it's not like, he was crazy on diuretics or something and I damaged him. Zero. I mean, I had my plans. They're the guys that I do the loop diuretic. You and I had that discussion about diuretics and what is safe. And I completely agree with you. Like diazide, it's the safest. But this is aldactazide, hydrochlorothiazide, spironolactone,
They're all safe if you don't do too much of it. I think that's the problem. Once you start doing days and days and days of this stuff and you're hitting people with too many of them, that's when they all become dangerous. So, I mean, it depends on how much you use. And, I think with the main issue, and I think this is a point worth talking about only because we knew that Gustavo had a kidney transplant. He lost kidneys. Blood pressure, high blood pressure is what kills bodybuilders' kidneys. It's not diuretic usage usually. It's not the anabolic steroids. It's high blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, which is very easy to find out because you can buy yourself an auto-inflate cuff at any CVS pharmacy or on Walmart or Amazon.com. And if you take your blood pressure and you're high, go to the doctor and get a blood pressure medication. It's a very simple fix. And I don't know why more people don't do it, because it's not going to inhibit your bodybuilding gains or improvements or the look of your body if you use the right, blood pressure medication, an ACE inhibitor or an angiotensin receptor blocker. Those are very safe and they'll protect your kidneys. And it's worth staying because there's enough bodybuilders out there who didn't do that and do have kidney issues, and it was completely avoidable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting condolences about Gustavo as we speak.
Me too.
Yeah, so you see, a few people would say Milos, but when you work with him, was he unhealthy or high blood pressure or any, none. I mean,
Yeah.
he was one of the healthiest guy I knew. I mean, I went to Puerto Rico. We did seminars together, and then we did. I actually the guest posing. The last time I was in a posing trunks on the stage, like he was guest posing. He didn't invite me actually. I wanted to surprise him. He was on the stage, right? And he didn't know that I was going to do it. And then I had that. I went back, as he started pumping up. I went on the side and I had the dream tan, right? Because, if I came pro tanned, I would be a suspect. So I did the dream tan and stuff. And as he was on the stage, I went there and posed with him, which I'm glad I did it. We were there together. Then we went to some TV show, and now imagine me. I have two left legs. If you're supposed to Latino dance, that salsa and shit. And there's a video footage. Okay, I was doing that with him. Like I didn't care. Like just having fun, because he was that fun-loving guy. I mean, anything about Gustavo was fun.
Party, he wanted to. The bodybuilding show was the party for him. That's where he shined, and you could tell he really loved being up there. And when you take that away from someone, it leaves a void inside of you sometimes, and a lot of people can't find something to fill that void. And I think that he had problems. I think from the people I talked to, at least, he did not like the fact that he couldn't compete anymore, and it bothered him that he had to stop. And I think, it is what it is.
It's just I can only imagine when you heard the news. I mean, it takes that heavy load, put on your heart. Like, why? And then why didn't I insist? Dennis and I were talking about constantly bringing him on the show, and he would just be non-responsive. Okay,
he didn't want to come on. No, I reached out to him too. He was not responsive to coming, because I wanted to interview him because no one had talked to him in so long. I wanted to find out why he retired, what he was going through. And I think he couldn't do it. It was like Nasser. They couldn't talk about bodybuilding once they were no longer involved in it. It was like a sore subject for them, Yeah. And it's a shame because he had a lot to give. I think he had a lot to give back, to the sport. If he would have.
Supposedly he was doing a lot for Latino community and coaching people. And supposedly he's New Zealand, freaking Rican, and all this stuff. I think so. But especially then, if you are into that industry, why are you not a little bit more visible, right? I mean, top 3 Olympic contender. Of course, he could get to so many clients and do the seminars and everything. It's just, it goes heavy because, let's speak you and I as a friends, right? I think I changed his career dramatically from 2003 when, he was placing nowhere into the top echelon, right? I don't want to be praised and all this stuff, but I think I made a huge difference in him, right? So we should have been friends for life, right? And even if it separated our ways, I mean, shit, give me a call, man.
I think he was very proud, though, Milos. And maybe he wasn't proud of the fact that he didn't offer you money when he could have, when you asked for it. And maybe he felt uncomfortable, approaching you or talking to you about it because maybe he knew he was wrong, even though he didn't. In other words, I would have just said, "Hey, Milos, I'm sorry. You know what? I screwed up or whatever." But a lot of people are too proud to admit that they were wrong, and they would rather just avoid the conversation. And so, that's the only thing I could think of, because why else? I mean, you guys spent a lot of time together. You think, even if it didn't end well, it doesn't matter now. It's years later. You think he would have at least said, "Hey, put the bygones aside, and we had a great time over through 2-3 years that you worked with me."
That's how I would think, but it didn't happen. So it breaks my heart because a lot of people say, "Oh, maybe he was mad." What can he be possibly mad at me?
Nah, I don't think he's mad.
Yeah, what can he possibly be mad at me? Because Dave, again, we don't know how long we're going to be around there, but you probably can attest to this. I'm passionate about. I would help the enemy. I mean, I was helping Nasser beat me in a contest openly. As we talked about that earlier. Right now, I would go to anyone, and if I can make a change and difference and just give advice, I would say, okay, to somebody has a coach, please don't do this without consulting your coach, but tell your coach, my observation is this. I would tell them openly. because if you see it and you don't say it, it's like, why didn't I say it? This guy needs this.
You know what, Milos? You and I are the same like that. I mean, I've had guys who I didn't work with, or their whole career, or maybe I worked with them early in their career and they switched coaches, and then after they retired, they contacted me with some health issues. Dave, what should I do? Here's my blood work, and I would never say, I would never say, oh, I'm going to talk to this guy because he switched coaches on me. I mean, who cares? I'm going to help the person because they're in need, and that's what good people do. And so you're in a sense, you're like me. We want people to be healthy. We want them to be prosper as bodybuilders, as human beings. And if I have opportunities available business-wise, I would point them in the right direction. I always try to connect people who need each other, or who might be perfect matches for each other in terms of jobs and stuff like that. Because hey, we're all in this together. We're all iron brothers and sisters, and we could argue and break each other's balls, but that doesn't mean we all don't love the same thing. And so why not help each other?
I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit, Dave. You are so educational, and you say you want everybody to be healthy. And even in this last podcast that we had, I mean, you jumped in and you throw in like 10 super valuable health advices for all of us olders, and that's what you do. I see it happen, me included. You see, I would be labeled, I don't know if Milos is crazy doing his gears, my cycles is a super moderate. It's nothing crazy. Of course, at this level we have to do some extremes, right? But most of the guys, I dramatically lower their cycles. I don't know if you notice, of course, I mentioned it, Jay Cutler podcast. I had my journals, and then as we're flipping,
I was going to ask you about that. I didn't know if this was the right interview to do it on, but someone said you had pulled out a journal, and you would. Whose cycle were you telling it? You were saying
Nasser.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
Is it true? Is it true that he took like all those anadrols? What did you say? Like 10 anadrols?
Yeah. And this is, you see, I didn't want to say it at that interview, because then it would be like, oh, Milos is, again, glorifying himself and everything. So, okay, let me just tell you how it went. I told Nasser I was beating him in 91, 92, 93, right? We competed. And at the FIBO, he came to me and say, would I tell him how to use insulin and all this stuff? So I sit down with him for
give me the secrets already of the insulin. I don't appreciate you beating me. I am genetically superior to you. Please, will you give me the insulin secret?
Yeah. So he asked me, right? Because he kind of didn't believe in all this stuff. He said, Milos, insulin always made me fat. I said, of course not, sir. If you don't know what you're doing, the insulin can make you obese. In Jesus Christ. So I sit down and I swear, 2 hours in front of his wife, right? Gear, pre-contest, carb loading. I told him the truth. Now, Nasser, 94, came to San Diego and was a guest. And one of these journals were sitting next to me. Can I look? I say, go ahead and look. Okay, so here's that part. This orange is Nasser's cycle, but so I just point out to Jay Cutler because here's Nasser's cycle. So when he came 94, he was looking at one of 94 journal and then looking at me and looking. I said, Nasser, isn't that exactly what I told you? Exactly, to a T. And here's my 93, and here's my 92, and he's looking his wife and says something in German, but he said Arschloch. And I don't know German, but I know that Arschloch means asshole. So what? And then she said, Bisera, Birgit. She goes, Milos, he did exactly the opposite. Everything you told him, he did. I said, for the love of God. And then Nasser goes, oh yeah, you did this just to trick me. I said, Nasser, you
had a fake journal, and the real one was in the back room somewhere, right?
Yeah, you want to tell me that I wrote 10 meals a day, every single day, out of the shit? Are you out of your mind? And then he goes, oh, well, okay, can I take this home? And so he took it home and came back. I said, no. I said, you take 1.5 Anadrol. Yeah, how much you take? 10. I said, for the love of God, This is how
was he possibly able to eat food on 10 Anadrols a day? I don't know.
That's what a few people ask. For me, Anadrol never suppressed my appetite, but because Nick Trigili already made a video about the whole thing. Milos talks about nasser. So yeah, I mentioned 10 because I was the one to take him off the 10, for the love of God. And then when I went to Germany, I had to get off so many Germans off of that kind of craziness. And other things. I don't want to even say it because every time I say I get myself in trouble. But like you, we lowered the dosage. It's one thing, effective, safe dosage, and completely other abuse. And this is what I was trying to prevent it. And so might as well, I don't know if you can run this part.
It's important to mention for all the people watching this, Nasser wasn't that big because he took 10 Anadrols. He didn't need 10. What Milos is saying, he didn't need 10 Anadrols to be that big. He was just over toxifying his body for no reason. It wasn't doing anything more than what 1.5 would have done, or whatever you had told him to do. And that was that's the take-home message here. It's not, hey guys, let's copy what Nasser did because he was so. No, that's not why Nasser was that big. Nasser was doing destructive things to himself, and Milos fixed it. And that's probably why Nasser became a better bodybuilder. So, yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this: you're going to appreciate this. That I have their PDRs. I was taking it out and taking pictures, sending to Nick Trigili, just to see. This is exactly what Nasser did. But he goes, but Milos, in his pharmacopoeia from Germany, I don't know, I had it before, but I have a PDRs, and I have here 2 of them.
Sure.
You can go on pdr.net even now, even though now they're changing the old ones. They were suggesting 1 to 2 and up to 5 milligrams per kilo of oxymetholone. So if it's 5 milligrams per kilo, and he's 130 kilos, he's supposed to take like how many? 14 of them, right? Yeah. So he was saying, it says that 1 to 2 milligrams per kilo, and sometimes you have to go more. So this is how he come up with this shit. Like, Nasser.
They wanted you to do that for 2 weeks, probably, for anemia. They didn't want you to do it for 2 years, straight. So that's the difference. Yeah.
But you see, so I can never say I know for sure Nasser listened to me, and because there's always that question mark. But here there was that cycle that he lowered it. He lowered it and ran by me. So it just, I don't even remember having it. But I was flipping. Oh, there it is. It's interesting thing, right? Wouldn't you want to see it?
I love that you have such a historical documentation of your whole career. I mean, I wish I was as neurotic as you are to have written everything down, but I didn't. But everyone does it differently. I have it up here in my brain. I remember exactly what I did because I was so into what I was doing, and I'm still talking about it to this day. So if I probably hadn't talked about it for 10 years, I don't think I would be able to recall everything that I did. But you and I talk about this every single day. I mean, with clients and on TV shows, and it's our job essentially. So I mean, it's fresh in our memory. But it's important, I think, especially when we have a death of a bodybuilder at such a young age like Gustavo, that we do have these conversations, because there are safe ways of doing things and there are not safe ways of doing things. And I think it's important that we bring to light the right way to do things and how to make sure that you don't wind up dying an early death, because at the end of the day, no one wants to. I know when you're in the heat of battle, you don't care and you're like, oh, I'll do anything. But you know what? Doing anything doesn't mean doing self-destructive things either. And so it's important that you work with someone who can keep you on the right path, and someone like Milos, myself, and there's a lot of other good coaches out there that do value the athlete's health as well. And those are the people you should be looking for when you're trying to hire someone to help you compete. And Milos and I could talk until we're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, I would hope we all want to live a long, healthy life. So,
yeah, but you see, for some reason, people would always think that maybe we are lying. We don't want to, we don't want to.
They should know by now that we don't lie. We're so transparent that you can't see through us. Yeah.
I published some pages. You know, I wouldn't lie.
I made a joke about your journals once to someone because they were like, I think Milos shows people. I said, do you really think that Milos has 2 copies of his journals? One that's in his safe that was the real ones, and then he made a whole line of fake journals just to show people, hey, this is what I want you to do, but I really did something different. I said, you got to be out of your freaking mind to think that.
I mean,
it's like you know, people like businesses, Milos, they cook the books. They have like the set of the good books and then the set of the real books. Yeah.
No.
They think that's you. Yeah. They think that you have you're cooking the books. Milos, thank you for joining me today. And you know what? And remembering Gustavo Badell, he really deserved this show and deserved the attention that we gave him today. And the reminder of what a great bodybuilder he was and the passion he had for the sport. And, you know, I just want to send our condolences out to his family, his children, and all his loved ones and fans. He's going to be missed.
Yeah, thank you for making this happen. You know, Gustavo, we love you. You're going to always be remembered. And rest in peace.
Rest in peace, for sure. I'm Dave Palumbo with Milos Sarcev for another edition of RX Muscles News Update. See you next time.